Hi, in this video, we will learn about a very important topic, which is the power of influence to change someone's behavior. And there are many steps that are laid out in this chapter 12 of this book that we will go into. First things first, changing any behavior requires time. That's the most important thing that we should keep in mind. If you want to change a behavior of your child, a negative tendency, a way that they respond to negative emotions, how they express their emotions, or the way they behave, or the way they act, or even the way your team member does things, remember some of these things require patience. It requires time for them to change, and it also requires a lot of practice. It just cannot happen in the first time that they try to change themselves that they'll be able to change it. It requires a lot of practice. Everyone goes through their own process. Everyone has their own ways to learn. Everyone takes their own time to learn. So this is the most important thing to keep in mind while we look through some of these tips in the slides. So ideally there are three types of changing behavior, and you want to prevent a problem of a situation. For example, if you want your kid to not use drugs, for example, and that's a preventative behavior change that you want to get in them even before that they are exposed to those issues in various places. So that's preventing a problems. Changing an existing behavior, if your child has an existing behavior problem, that's another type of change that you're expecting. Either preventing a problem, it's a new change. Changing existing behavior is existing behavior that needs to change, and adding a new behavior is also a third type of change. So there are three types of changes: preventing a problem, changing a behavior that exists today, and adding or learning a new type of behavior. So we have seen two really important tactics so far: choreographed conversations and role playing. These two tactics you can use in all of the things that we're going to discuss today. Those are really important tactics, and we learn a brand new tactic today. But let's go through some of the 5 steps that are highlighted in this chapter 12. To change behavior, these are the sequential steps. I'd emphasize sequential. They need to happen in order. The first step is to become aware that there's a problem. And these steps are the steps that you would expect to happen in the mind of the person that you're trying to influence change. So for example, if you're trying to make a change in your kid's mind or your team member's mind, then they need to be aware, first of all, not you, but they need to be aware that there's a problem. So that's step 1. Awareness is where it all starts. If they're not even aware that there's something wrong, then they'll not fix it. The second step is they need to recognize that that issue is a problem. First, they need to understand that there is a problem. Second, they need to recognize that that problem is something that's real and it's impacting them, and that they have the motivation or the desire or the reasoning to change it. The first is awareness. Second is the motivation or the desire to change it. The third step, after your child realizes that there's a problem and understands clearly that they want to change that behavior, or they want to learn some new way of responding to something, the third thing is they need skills. They might not even know how to fix some of those problems. They might not even have a mental model of fixing or finding a solution or seeking help or what options exist out there. So they need a way to find the solution or to learn some skills. So that's the third step. And our role as parents and leaders have a huge role to play here. We can help influence them at every step, not giving them the answers, but asking leading questions. So once the child realizes that there is a problem, and then they realize and understand that yes, they want to do something to change it, the third step is they need the skills or the guidance or alternatives or mental models to change their behaviors or to find a solution. The fourth step is that they need to weigh in, like, what is the cost benefit of making a change versus an existing behavior. So remember, many negative behaviors today that exist or negative tendencies They are solely created to manage stress. Everyone needs acceptance, everyone needs love, everyone needs to be noticed, and they need a feeling of belonging. And if they don't get it, they will be okay with the negative tendencies. So, support from parents, peers, and friends is a huge step here. They need to clearly understand that the new behavior is much beneficial to them. And finally, they need to make a decision and stick to that decision. This is where, again, a lot of support is needed from parents, friends, teachers, and even the influence of media. If they make a commitment to change, but if all they hear from parents, teachers, peers, friends, and media is opposite, then their resolution may be weakened. So these are the 5 steps: being aware, getting motivated to change it, understanding the reason why they want to change it, learning the skills or the ways to find a solution, having a clear cost benefit analysis in mind, and then making a decision and having a support system to commit to those changes. These are the 5 sequential steps needed for any change. Now let's learn some new tactics. We have learned so far 2 really important tactics, which is role playing and choreographed conversations. To add to that, there is a third new one. We learned 4 more skills in this video. The first one is decision tree analysis. So with this, you're trying to help the child or your team member to reach an ultimate goal. So you have a clear definition of what the goal is. You have a clear definition of where you're starting. And you're trying to list out on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard or somewhere where they can see various options, all the possibilities of what can happen. How can they, from where they are today, reach their ultimate goal? And for that, as a leader, as a teacher, as a parent, you can ask them leading questions saying, okay, what could happen if your friend asks you to drink when you know you shouldn't be drinking or you don't want to drink? What would you do then? Or so there are many alternatives that you could ask them to think through, and take them one step at a time to the next step, saying, okay, what would happen then? What would happen then? And then continue until you can steer them towards the goal. The key thing is, in this process, don't give them the answers. Even though you can foresee a lot of issues that can happen, make them realize that they could come up with those possibilities. And if not, guide them. Continue guiding them. This is a heavy process, decision tree analysis. Use this sparingly. Don't use this often, because this is something you could use for complex issues that require a lot of thinking. And the main thing here is to think through all the alternatives, and keep in mind that this is something that would require them to build a new skill of building alternatives and understanding what all could happen. The second new thing that we will learn is the art of saying no. Many a times, kids get pressured, or team members get pressured into timelines that are not reasonable. They need to clearly learn how to say no. A no is a no. It's not negotiable after that. If you don't know as parents when to say no versus a maybe, and if you're not sure, say maybe. But do not say no that will change into a yes because your kids start nagging you. Then they'll learn something that's totally wrong. They will learn that no's can be converted to yes, and they themselves will say no when they want to. They'll not say no when they want to say no, right? And they'll not stick to it. So as parents, it's our role to stick to no's very clearly, and our no's should be clear. It should be in a firm tone, and it should not be negotiable. And that feeling should come that it is a resolve. It's a strong resolve. It's not negotiable. And parents can help by setting as examples, by not converting their no to yes when they don't mean no. So they should really mean no when they say no. And so the kids will learn when to say no and not give in to situations when they have to say no. The second thing is understanding. The third skill that we should learn and teach is dealing with manipulators. There's going to be times when people manipulate you. So under peer pressure, it's very hard for kids to not come under this peer pressure. And so learning how to recognize those manipulators who ask you to do certain things that you don't want to do. That's the first step. And as parents, we need to be always available as sounding boards, um, because kids need our time and they need acceptance and love. So when they ask us about certain things as to how someone's manipulating them, we need to be available. But the biggest thing is to detect that there's someone trying to manipulate you. You need to recognize it as, and that's the skill that we're trying to teach to our children. Recognize that there's someone who's manipulating you. Second, state your position clearly that you're not willing to do certain things, and offer alternatives. Instead of cheating, I would study hard and I could work with you or something like that. So recognize that when one of your friends, let's say they say, it's okay to cheat in this exam, it's a very tough exam, etc. So recognize as a child that your friend's trying to manipulate you into doing something that's wrong, that you don't want to do. State your position clearly. No, I will not cheat. I'm okay without cheating. I will study hard. And offer alternatives saying, I will study with you extra. Not that bad on math or something like that. So dealing with manipulators is super important. And the only thing that can really help you is deep values, deep sense of understanding what's right or wrong for me. And that comes clearly from the parents. The final new skill is I don't quite buy this, but this is in the book, but I think it helps. So that's why I'm sharing this here, is to shift the blame on parents or someone elderly to save your face as kids. So if you're not comfortable with your under peer pressure, and you don't want to lose your friendship because of saying no, then you could shift the blame to your parents, saying, hey, my parents would totally not give me, would take my driving license away if I were to speed or something like that. So shifting blame to your parents and getting parents involved using code words. So kids and parents could have clear code words between them saying, hey, if I say this word, this is what I mean. I need your help and you need to come and help me. This could also be useful between team members, and it could also be useful between husband and spouse. Code words can be used to recognize and communicate things that are harder to communicate in a social setting that is uncomfortable. So using code words, blaming parents, and coming up with some random lie that says, hey, if I smoke, I'll have asthma. I already have asthma. I'll be in the hospital or something like that. It's a lie, but it helps you in a pretty risky situation as child. I wouldn't advocate this, but worst case, I agree with the code words piece of parent intervention to get parents involved so that they can pick you up if your child is in danger or is under on a spot. And then blaming the parents potentially helps because parents have a really high bar. But creating rumors, it sounds risky. Okay, so that's it for this chapter. Overall, changing behavior requires practice and patience. There are multiple steps. Things need to be in order of recognizing that there's a problem, being aware of it, and motivation to change it, acquiring the skill to fix it, weighing the cost benefit of a new behavior, having a clear understanding of certain things being better versus not, and then support system and the decision to commit to the new behavior. A lot of new things we learned, the decision trees analysis where we can think through alternatives, saying no, dealing with manipulators, understanding who the manipulators are, and shifting blame and using code words. Thank you.